Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking through the Week 5 Monday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings. We have a game on Monday night between the Packers and the Raiders, and we're going to talk through this slate. We're going to break down the player pool, hit on all the playable options, talk through all the guys that I do have interest in for this slate. Now, as always, before we do get started with the breakdown, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, if they help you out, please hit that like button down below. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. And also, I do want to give a shout out to PrizePicks because PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. If you guys have never heard of PrizePicks, they are a player prop site. They're a DFS site, but they focus more on player props, so player projections. And on PrizePicks, you're just taking more or less on a player's projection. It is as simple as that. You can see the props they already have posted. I'm actually right now I'm making this video on Sunday, so they do have stuff up for Sunday Night Football, as you can see, but they also do have props up already for Monday Night Football. As we do get closer to the start of the game on Monday night, you will see even more props get added to the board. Again, on PrizePicks, very simple. You're just picking more or less on a player's projection. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 6 picks on PrizePicks, and you can win up to 25x your money. So if you guys want to give PrizePicks a try, be sure to sign up. Use that promo code NOAH. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, when you sign up for PrizePicks with that promo code, you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. So check them out, guys. If you have not yet, use that code when you sign up so you do get your deposit bonus. And yeah, let's talk through this Monday night game, Packers and Raiders. I think this is actually going to be kind of a decent game. I'm kind of excited to watch this one. But we do have a lot of injuries, or not really a lot of injuries, but we do have some big injuries to discuss in this game. Again, I'm making this video on Sunday, so we don't really have any updates yet on these guys. But right now, Davante Adams and Aaron Jones are both questionable for this game. These are two really important injuries to talk about. Yeah, we'll start off with Adams and Jones. We'll talk about them first just because they are questionable. Adams did not practice all week until Saturday. He did get a limited practice in on Saturday. So the fact that Adams was able to practice in some capacity on Saturday bodes well for him playing this game. This is an injury that he did suffer last week in their game against the Chargers, but he wound up coming back into the game, which makes me think he probably plays here. I mean, the fact that Adams was able to go back out there and play last week, even after getting injured, makes me assume this injury is not serious enough to keep him out of the game. So I am expecting Davante Adams to play here, and obviously it's a pretty decent spot, I would say, against the Packers. I mean, the Packers do have a good corner in Jair Alexander. It is a revenge game for Davante Adams, but Adams has just been getting so much volume in this Raiders offense. He's just been a target monster. He's going to be getting Jimmy Garoppolo back for this game. There's really nothing negative you could say about Davante Adams here. This shoulder injury that he has, is it going to limit him? Probably not. I would think if he plays, he's going to be good to go, and he's going to play his normal role and have his normal snap count. So I definitely think Adams is firmly in play on this slate. I would say, honestly, the matchup's probably not like the best. I think the Packers defense their secondary has been pretty solid, and I do expect Adams to see a lot of Jair Alexander. Again, I don't really look at cornerback, wide receiver matchups that often. I mean, I don't think they're something you should really weight heavily anyway, especially for a guy like Davante Adams. I mean, we've seen Davante Adams be able to win even in tough matchups. I think on this slate specifically, like the quarterbacks probably look like safer plays, and we'll talk about them when we get there. But I definitely think the upside on Adams is clearly there for a guy that's getting so much volume right now. And then you have Aaron Jones, who again is also questionable for this game. Jones did play last week against Detroit in that Thursday night game. He's been dealing with this hamstring injury. He played Thursday night, but you could clearly tell that he was not like 100%. He didn't get his full workload. He only got 6 touches. I mean, that was a game where they were losing pretty badly, and they didn't really have a chance of winning that game. So maybe that was the reason they limited Jones, because it was they were just playing from behind, and it was clearly a game they were going to lose. I wouldn't think that we're going to see Aaron Jones have his normal role here. He did get a couple limited practices in this week. He didn't really practice in full, which is kind of a little bit concerning. But, I mean, he's their clear lead back. They need him out there right now. They've just been getting no production from any of the other running backs besides, obviously, Aaron Jones. So if Aaron Jones is playing, I'm expecting him to have his normal workload. And if that's the case, I mean, I think at 10K, he looks pretty solid on this slate. We haven't really seen but one game from Aaron. I mean, we haven't even seen Aaron Jones play a full game this year, because week 1, he got injured in that game against Chicago, and then their last game, he played, but he didn't really play his full workload. He didn't play his full snaps. I mean, we haven't seen a full, healthy game from Aaron Jones yet this season. If he's good to go for this one, I think there's big-time upside for Aaron Jones, especially just because he's their clear best running back right now, and they just need to get him the ball. I think we could project him for double-digit carries, probably 4 or 5 targets as well. At 10K, I definitely think Aaron Jones looks solid here, assuming he's good to go. And then I do want to talk about Josh Jacobs as well. Josh Jacobs has had a really big role for the Raiders. Efficiency has been a little bit of a concern for Josh Jacobs. He's not been very efficient on the ground, but the volume's been great. Last week, 17 carries, 8 receptions. 17 carries, 3 receptions. That game against Buffalo was a massive blowout, so you can't really look at that game. But then against Denver, 19 carries, 2 receptions. Like, he's getting 20-plus touches a game. He's getting great usage in the passing game. Don't know if we can expect him to get 11 targets like he got last week. I think that was just because with Aiden O'Connell out there, they just kind of needed like a safety blanket for O'Connell. Don't expect 11 targets, but I think 5, 6 targets is totally in the range of outcomes for Jacobs, and he's going to get 15, 16, 17 carries. He's going to get all the goal line work. He's going to play a large majority of the snaps. He feels like a very safe, high-floor play. I think between Jacobs or Jones, I definitely think Jacobs is the safer option for cash games. If you're choosing between those two, I would definitely side with Jacobs. But would anyone be surprised if Aaron Jones outscores Josh Jacobs? Like, no. So I think Jones is someone you could definitely pivot to in tournaments. But for cash games, if you're talking about the guys at the top, Adams, Jacobs, Jones, I think Jacobs is probably the safest of those three. I would probably say Adams over Jacobs, but just with this shoulder injury, I don't know if I would want to take that risk on Adams like in a cash game setting. I haven't built out any cash game lineups yet, so I can't really say. But definitely the safest play at the top is probably Josh Jacobs. Adams and Jones, though, obviously great tournament options you could go to. And then you have the quarterbacks. I think both quarterbacks are pretty high floor plays here. This is a game that does have a decently high total, 45.5 total. This game's going to be played it's going to be in a dome, so it's indoors, no weather concerns or anything like that. Jordan Love's actually been pretty good as a fantasy quarterback this season. He had a tough first half last week against Detroit, but had a big second half, finished with almost 20 DraftKings points. He's had almost 20 DraftKings points in every single game this season. Matchup here against the Raiders, I think, is very winnable for Love. I don't think this is like a bad matchup by any means. So really like Jordan Love on this slate. I think he's a cash game staple for tournaments. Obviously, you probably want to have a good amount of exposure to Love. The real question is Jordan Love someone you want to roster in the captain spot? I don't know about that. Jordan Love has had rushing upside this season, but I feel like if he has a game like where he puts up 25 DK points, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to want one of his receivers in the captain spot and not him. But there's also a chance that Love puts up a big game and like none of his receivers have great games because he could spread the ball out or he could get you some rushing touchdowns or something like that. Love is captain viable. I don't know if it's something that I would do in tournaments at least. Now, for cash games, like you just play the highest projected player in the captain spot, which might be Jordan Love. But I think, for tournaments, playing Love in the captain spot is probably fine. I don't know if it's something that I would be doing, though. I think I'd probably look to his receivers in the captain spot. And then you do have Jimmy Garoppolo, who last week was out, but is expected to come back for this game, got a full practice in. And Jimmy Garoppolo this season, not been like the best fantasy quarterback, but not been terrible either. Their week 1 game against Denver, he had 16 DraftKings points. The massive blowout against Buffalo, that's obviously an outlier game. Can't really look too much into that one. And then the most recent game he played in against Pittsburgh, 23 DK points. When Jimmy Garoppolo was on the 49ers, he was a quarterback that just never really offered much fantasy upside. Like if you got 20 fantasy points from Garoppolo when he was on the 49ers, you were probably ecstatic about that. But he never really went out there and just like put up a complete stinker. Now, obviously, against Buffalo, week 2, that was a complete stinker, 9 DraftKings points. But I think Garoppolo does have a pretty high floor. I think his ceiling is not super high. Like he is not someone that I would play in the captain spot. I would be much more likely to play like a Devonta Adams or a Jacoby Myers in the captain spot instead of Garoppolo. But Garoppolo could go out here and throw for 250, 300 yards, a couple touchdowns. He's someone I definitely would want in cash games, I think. Typically, I like to play both quarterbacks in cash games. For tournaments, Garoppolo is a solid flex option. Would I be playing Garoppolo in the captain spot? I don't think so. I think I'd be a lot more likely just to play his pass catchers if I was going to do that. Now, some of these other plays we can talk about, like some of these receiver options. So Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson you got in this mid-range. Doubs is 8,200. Christian Watson is 7,800. Do want to talk about this situation because if you look at the snaps last week, Christian Watson did return from his injury that he had suffered, or that hamstring injury that he had suffered, but he didn't really get a full workload, only saw 4 targets, only played 46% of the snaps. I would expect a pretty close to full role for Christian Watson here. He was limited in practice, I think, like all week, but given that he's had like a week and a half to get, they played last Thursday night, so he's had like a week and a half to get rested up for this game. I'm expecting Christian Watson to be pretty much back to 100%. At 7,800, I think he's firmly in play here. We did see Romeo Doubs lead the team in snaps last week, saw 13 targets. He's been earning a lot of targets the last 2 weeks. You would think with Christian Watson back and Christian Watson playing a bigger role, like you would think Doubs' target share is going to come down. But that didn't happen last week. 13 targets for Doubs. I still think I'd be a lot more likely to play Watson over Doubs in tournaments. I think Watson's going to come in with lower ownership, and we've seen Christian Watson be a good receiver in this Packers offense. So I think both these Packers receivers are in play, but I do prefer Watson, especially if he's going to come in with lower ownership than Doubs. And then you have Jacoby Myers at 7K. If you're talking about like a cash game setting, I think Myers is going to be the guy that projects really well in this price range, just because he's been getting so many targets for this Raiders team. Him and Devontae Adams have just been dominating the target share for the Raiders. Like no other receivers in this offense are even getting targeted that much. Hunter Renfro's barely been getting targeted this season. Trey Tucker's barely been getting targeted, even though he's been playing snaps. Same with DeAndre Carter. You can almost project Myers and Adams for like close, I don't want to say close to 10 targets, but I think you can project them for at least like 7 to 8 targets each on a weekly basis. And getting Jimmy Garoppolo back here, I think makes this a pretty good spot for this Raiders offense. I'm expecting them to be able to put up some points here at home. And if you're one of those people that's worried about the wide receiver cornerback matchup with Jair Alexander and Devontae Adams, then if Jair Alexander does give Devontae Adams some problems, well, that could mean maybe more opportunity for a guy like Jacoby Myers. But regardless, I think it's 7K with how good of a target earner he's been this season, dominating the target share along with Devontae Adams. Myers at 7K looks very solid. He is someone that I do have a lot of interest in. And then we need to talk about Jayden Reed. So Jayden Reed's probably going to start to operate as the wide receiver 3 as Christian Watson gets healthier. Romeo Doubs has obviously been earning a lot of targets. He's been playing a lot of snaps. But you did see Jayden Reed still play 67% of snaps last week. I think his snap share is going to decrease as Watson's increases. But Reed should still be out there for probably at least like 50-60% of the snaps. He's 6,200. The price tag is fair. I don't think he's like a standout option at this price point. I'd much rather get up to Myers. I would rather get up to Doubs or Watson. But Reed's playable, in GBPs. Not someone that I think I'd be playing in cash games, though. And then talking about some of the value on this slate. So you have Luke Musgrave at 5,200. He's been the clear number 1 tight end for the Packers this season. Not been earning a ton of targets, but he has been a pretty good receiving tight end. Just, I want to say in college he was like a really good receiving tight end. So far this season, he's, obviously been used more as a receiver. He's not really going to be out there blocking a ton. I mean, last week he got injured, so you can't really look much into last game, but their Week 3 game against the Saints, 86% of the snaps for Luke Musgrave, 88% of the snaps in that game against Atlanta. He's going to be out there for almost close to the entire game. He's going to be out there running routes. At 5,200 as a value option, I'm totally fine going to Luke Musgrave on this slate. I think he's firmly in play for value. Probably going to need a touchdown to put up a really good score at his salary, but even if he doesn't score a touchdown, you could still get like 7 or 8 Draftkings points, which isn't going to kill you at that price tag. Then you have A.J. Dillon at 4,600, who is really cheap, but A.J. Dillon just been so inefficient as a runner this season, just been so bad overall. He still probably is going to project to see at least like 6 to 8 touches, I would think, if Aaron Jones plays. Obviously, if Aaron Jones does not play by some chance, then A.J. Dillon is going to be the best value play on the slate. And even though A.J. Dillon's been terrible in the games without Jones, he would still project incredibly well at this salary if Jones were to be out. But I'm expecting Jones to play, so I'm expecting Dillon to kind of be the backup. Again, I think Dillon projects to see like 6 to 8 carries, a couple targets. He's okay at 4,600, but man, the guy just looks so bad this season. It's hard to have a ton of confidence in A.J. Dillon right now, but I think the price tag is cheap enough to where he is viable on this slate. The defenses, I'm not in love with here. These are 2 quarterbacks that I think will probably turn the ball over and stuff, but at 4,400 and at 3,800, neither defense I love on this slate. The kickers I'm fine with. Kickers are always solid values. They always are going to project us put up like 7 or 8 points. Usually, you're not going to get a big ceiling from a kicker, but if you're looking for a safe floor, I think both kickers, obviously are in play. And then below that, it's pretty thin. Like, there's not a ton of other value plays I have much interest in. Zaire White, he's going to be the backup to Josh Jacobs, but he's not really been getting a ton of opportunity. They're just going to play Jacobs a ton of snaps, so you're not really going to see much, many touches for White here. So I'm not super interested in White, even though he probably will get like 5 or 6 touches. I just don't have a ton of interest in that price tag. Hunter Renfro's been operating as the wide receiver 3 for the Raiders, but again, he's just not been able to really earn many targets. You look at his game log this season, 0, 1, 2, and 4 targets. He still is going to play probably 40 to 50% of the snaps, mostly playing out of the slot. At 2,200, I think he is in play here. I don't think there's not much of a ceiling on Hunter Renfrow, but if he catches like 3 or 4 balls for like 30, 40 yards, I mean, that could be good enough at his price tag. So if I was going to play someone this cheap, I think Hunter Renfrow would be the guy that I would look to. But the rest of these guys like Degura, Toure, these guys are just like touchdown or bust options. I do want to mention that last week you did see a decent amount of snaps for Dontavian Wicks, who is, I'm pretty sure, minimum salary. He is minimum salary. But again, like with Christian Watson likely to play more snaps this week, I think that's probably going to hurt a guy like Wicks. And even though Wicks played 58% of the snaps last week, he still only got 1 target. But if you need a $200 punt play, like I don't think Wicks is a terrible option. He's probably going to be like the wide receiver 4/5 for the he's probably going to be like the wide receiver 5 for the Packers. But he should, probably play at least like 20, 30 snaps, I would think. He might run like 10 or 12 routes at $200. Like he's not the worst punt option. But the value, like punt value, there's not a ton that I love. I think Hunter Renfrow at 2,200 is probably my favorite punt value play. Degura, I think it's just like a touchdown or bust option. Simi Toure, I think it's like a touchdown or bust play. I'd rather play Wicks if I was going to play a Packers punt raw receiver. Amir Abdullah, he'll get some usage in the passing game, but you kind of need a game script to go weird for him to get a ton of opportunity. Maybe if the Raiders get way behind in this game, which seems unlikely, but if they do, you might see like 4 or 5 targets for Abdullah. But that's, you're just kind of playing for the game script there more than anything. And then I guess we will mention Austin Hooper. So Austin Hooper, him and Michael Mayer have been splitting the tight end snaps for the Raiders this season. Neither one of Mayer or Hooper have really been able to earn many targets. So I think both these guys are like touchdown or bust plays. But you did see like in week 3, even though he had 0 targets, you did see Austin Hooper plays 76% of the snaps. So he's going to be out there for a good amount of the snaps. He's only $600. He's probably going to have to score a touchdown to put up a good score. But at $600, I mean, if you need a punt play, I don't think Hooper's like the worst option. So there are some viable punts on this slate. None of them I'm super comfortable with. I don't really love, but there at least are some viable options down here. I think Wicks, Hooper, and then Renfrow would be like the cheapest guys I would consider on this slate. But that's probably it, guys. I think we kind of talked about all the playable options for this Monday Night Football game. Again, guys, appreciate you watching the video. As always, hit that like button down below if you guys did enjoy. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And be sure to go check out the sponsored Prize Picks linked down below in the description, or just when you sign up for Prize Picks, make sure to use that promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for Prize Picks with my promo code. Check them out if you guys have not yet. But good luck on this Monday night slate, guys. Hopefully you all enjoy this game tonight. Hopefully it's a good game. I'm excited to watch this one. But either way, guys, appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next video.